I'm going to start this review like this. Hello everyone, I'm the creator of Bricks. I'm a lifelong Superman fan. He's not my favorite superhero of all time, that would be Hal Jordan Green Lantern, but Superman has always been a character that I've had an affinity for. My first film exposure to Superman was Superman Returns. As a person born in 2007, that would always be my first exposure. I still have a massive attachment to Brandon Routh's Superman. I got really emotional when he was on CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths wearing the costume from a story that made me really invested in Superman. The comic I'm referring to is a story written by Mark Waid and Alex Ross, Kingdom Come. This story follows a later version of the DC Universe, one where everyone is older, including the Trinity of DC, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. This story has had a huge impact on me. I was at the school library in 2019 and I saw the all-green emerald cover of Alan Scott's kind of castle he has in the sky in that story in 2019, and it caught my attention instantly. What is this? I thought. I saw that wonderful Alex Ross art and was impressed. I'd always seen Alex Ross's art floating around sometimes, but a whole book? I was interested. I rented the book and the rest is history. At the time I was less interested in Superman. This was during the darkest times of being a DC fan. I was like everyone else at the time. Superman's boring and lame, and then I read Kingdom Come. The story puts a whole new spin on my perspective of DC Comics. I was a bit lost at the time with the characters like Alan Scott, Green Lantern, because at that point I hadn't been exposed to the JSA yet. This story is a favorite of mine now, and Alex Ross is still my favorite comic book artist, a man who brings these characters to life through his painting. When I saw Brandon Routh Superman in that Kingdom Come outfit, the two Supermen I grew up with, it was emotional. Brandon Routh is my personal Superman, and seeing David Cornsweet now bearing that version of the logo was a treat. A new legacy.
Say that again?
Comes with that House of Elcrest. It's the second time it's been used and it has a weight to me. Like I said, with it being attached to both Brandon Routh Superman and Kingdom Come, one of my favorite Superman books. Later on, I eventually got around to seeing Christopher Reeve's Superman film. These films were full of whimsy. I didn't know what to expect at the time besides the reputation of Superman 4. That was all I knew about Christopher Reeve's Superman. I sat down at about 3 o'clock in the morning one night playing the movie on my phone and bam.
Hey, Jim! Boom!
Excuse me.
That's a bad outfit!
It started hitting me. Christopher Reeve, Superman. The one that inspired my first Superman that I'd ever watched. I heard the theme blast as Superman was revealed at 1 hour and 20 minutes in for the first time. I saw what people loved with Superman. I still remember being a little 13-year-old in my bed watching it and having a tear run down my face as I watched Superman save Lois with the helicopter. I don't know what happened, but suddenly I just got really emotional. Superman the movie is now one of my 2 favorite Superman films. It used to be my favorite. Over time I've had some criticism, but it's still my second favorite. The romance in the film is still my favorite in any comic book film. After this, I eventually watched all 4 Christopher Reeve films, and then I went back to a movie I hadn't seen in a long time afterwards. Man of Steel. Man of Steel is a movie that constantly swaps back and forth in my mind if it's my favorite Superman movie. Currently it is. I think the movie is just so bold. It was the first time Superman got reinvented on screen, not attached to Christopher Reeve's continuity. The movie does something that the Reeve movies and extension Superman Returns didn't do, and that was they put Superman in a situation where there was no easy solution to the problem. The other films have really stupid cop-out endings that I really dislike. Superman the movie has time travel. I have grown to not dislike that ending as much as time's gone on. Superman 2 has the magic kiss or time travel again, depending on which version of the movie you watch. Superman Returns, Superman lifts a whole island worth of kryptonite into space. So, the movie doesn't give Superman an easy solution. It's either Superman kills Zod or he doesn't and people die. It's bold. It's controversial. I've argued with so many people about the movie for so many reasons. I've even made a video defending Man of Steel. But before I rewatched the film in 2020, I wasn't a fan of the DCE. It was the thing that made DC a laughingstock at school. I can't but I rewatched it on my own terms, now out of public school. I was able to appreciate it with new eyes. It's a very different take, but it's a bold take, and I admire that. After that, I started reading more Superman comics: The Death of Superman, Funeral for a Friend, Reign of the Superman, Superman Blue, Superman Last Son, Superman Brainiac, Superman Secret Origins, Superman Peace on Earth, Superman Escape from Bizarro World, Superman Rebirth, etc. But the one I still hold most dear is Reign of the Superman. Just a fun story from the 90s that I absolutely adore. 4 imposter Supermen come about post Superman's death: Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, Superboy, Steve. This story really built up my understanding of what Superman represents, and is one of the best DC runs of all time in my opinion, with 3 stories that line up together with the death of Superman, Funeral for a Friend, and Death of Superman. These stories really showcase what makes Superman, and how he affects Metropolis. And it's a run of Superman I greatly recommend. It's my personal favorite. And how it leads into Emerald Twilight for the Green Lantern side of the DC universe is just... Anyway, now that you're caught up on my love of Superman, let's talk about Superman by James Gunn. James Gunn is a filmmaker I've always appreciated since I first watched Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians is one of the best comic book films of all time, with a spectacular soundtrack, cinematography, character, and since that film, he's proven himself very well. Guardians 2 and 3 are good. 3 less so, I think, but I love Guardians 2. Ego's a great antagonist and threat for the film, and Yondu's death is absolutely crushing. That's something James is great at, is his characters. He gets you really attached to these people, and it makes these movies really fun to watch. His take on the Suicide Squad is spectacular and rewatchable as hell. So when I heard he was taking over as head of DC, I got really excited, and soon we'd see our first looks at Superman Legacy, now called Superman. But the suit was controversial. I was excited, then mixed, then excited again. I was waiting on a Superman that looked like the New 52 Superman, but the difference here was it had the trunks on the outside and the iconic Alex Ross logo from Kingdom Come. I couldn't wait for this. Trailers came out, and I got more and more excited. Crypto in live action, sweet. Now the film is here. What do I think? Now that I'm talking about the film, I'm just going to warn you that this will be going into spoilers straight on. So if you haven't seen the movie, you've been warned. Firstly, I'm going to start off by saying that I think this film was too short. There's a lot in here I wanted more of. Clark and Lois' chemistry is off the charts. I loved every scene with those two. This is the best Lois we've had since Margot Kidder. She has wit, spunk, and personality of Lois. The journalistic integrity she has is wonderful to see, even with Clark and Superman during her interview. I even like the addition of her love of punk rock. That's something new that I think is a cool character trait to add to Lois. I wanted to see more of Clark Kent. We see Clark once in the entire film from what I remember, and I don't think Clark does enough to separate himself from Superman from what I remember. It reminds me a lot of New 52 Superman, where he kind of acts mostly the same as Clark Kent. He doesn't have that bumbling personality that I would like in Clark Kent. They did give Clark a different hairstyle from Superman, so I did appreciate that. It goes a long way to disguise the two characters. But as Superman, David Cornsweet was pitch perfect and one of the best castings we have had. And for me, it goes Christopher Reeve, David Cornsweet now, then Brandon Routh. David Cornsweet very much proved he was fit for the role. Something I also wanted to see more of was the Kents and Els. We only have a select few scenes dedicated to each family with the Els. We just get their message, which leads to the reveal that the Els sent Kal to Earth to rule the planet, which I dislike greatly. The scene of that reveal to the public also felt rushed and like it needed more fleshing out in the script. It was just so dramatically overly evil with how they were talking. It was like, you will rule over these beings and they were weak and unintelligent. You'll create a harem and spread your seed. And I just felt like it was way too on the nose and obviously two-dimensional. Also, the way Hawkgirl says they wouldn't put out the video of the translation without being sure was just poorly written. Like, how do you know they're not messing with the tape? But it does lead to Kal having more of a fondness for his Earth family. You see that at the end. So I see why. So it's something I'm like, okay, that is cool. But that part is just so poorly written in that scene. And it's a creative choice I personally disagree with. If the elves weren't so two-dimensionally evil, I wouldn't mind the change, but the way it's done is just terrible. I feel like that part wasn't explored enough. With the Kents, I really wanted to see more of that family. You see that Clark does love his family and how much they mean, but we don't see anything in the past with his family. I was yearning for more of that. That's the most important part of Superman's character, is his upbringing. All we get is contextless videos in the fortress at the end, but I wanted more hands-on scenes of the Kents interacting with Clark. I also found Ultraman to be a very weird adaptation of Bizarro and Ultraman. He has the characteristics of Bizarro, but more the appearance of Ultraman. I wish they would have completely committed to Bizarro instead of trying to include Ultraman. I would have been fine with them giving Ultraman the costume of Ultraman, but I wish he had the fucked up appearance of Bizarro, the experiment gone wrong look when he takes off the mask. When he took off the mask and it was just Superman but with long hair, I'm like, oh, come on. Granted, they do have an opportunity in the future to give him that fucked up look, because he fell in the black hole, so I'll just see if that comes back and there's more. But if nothing comes out of that character in the future as Bizarro, I'm going to be disappointed. I did find his role very cool, how the character was used as a political tool and as Lex's fists in the movie. The scene where Lex is just spouting commands on Ultraman is awesome. 1A, 1A, 1A. It was a good way of Lex being able to beat Superman but not having to do it himself. That leads me to Lex Luthor. I feel like I got enough to be mostly satisfied, but even with him I wanted to see much more. We get a good amount of him with his motives, but I wanted that explored deeper. What we did get was the envy explored, which is good. That part of him is key. What I wanted more of was his backstory, how he's beaten as a child by his father. Maybe even how LexCorp operates in Metropolis 2, how he runs his company, his reputation with the public. For instance, in Superman's Secret Origin, you see that Lex holds events in the morning where he'll pick someone from the crowd to make their dreams come true. I think that's a great way of showing how Lex would be liked by the public and how he feeds his ego. It's something I think would have been interesting. But like I said, I got enough of Lex to be satisfied with his role in the film, even if I wanted more of him. As soon as I saw he got cast, I knew he was going to kill the role, so I had no worry. Then, with the Justice Gang, I found their inclusion to be a fun one. I was thinking I was going to dislike their part, but I did enjoy it. Mr. Terrific was a very fun character and led to a good amount of laughs in his parts. Guy Gardner, I always like being played for laughs. I absolutely despise that character. He's better in the comics from 2006 onwards, but his early appearances, he's just so disrespectful and a douchebag that it's enjoyable to watch him be stupid and get correct. But Nathan Fillion was good as the part. He's voiced Hal a couple times, and I've never been a fan of him as Hal, but he's perfect for Guy. Hawkgirl is kind of forgettable here, but she does get one part to shine, but I get why her parts are small. I've liked her and Hawkman a lot more learning about them, and especially their part in Brightest Day. The reincarnation aspect of those characters is fascinating. The gang was an inclusion that brought some light fun to the film. Which reminds me, people were complaining about the comedy in the movie. I actually did not dislike any of the comedy bits, surprisingly. Mostly. I tend to dislike an oversaturation of comedy, but I did not feel that here. I felt like the comedy outside of Jimmy Olsen with Eve was pretty good. Eve and Jimmy's scenes were definitely my least favorite of the film. The way Miss Tessmacher just fawns over Jimmy just wasn't believable, and how ditzy she is just bad. I would have much rather more of literally any other part of the film rather than Jimmy Olsen's weird Tessmacher relationship. Definitely the worst part of the film by far, and that happens in the comics sometimes with Jimmy Olsen. Like in All-Star Superman, they have a Jimmy Olsen side plot that's in the story for no real reason, but at least here it moves the plot, but I'm just not a fan of it. Finally, I'll get to the music and cinematography. The music I really enjoyed. The bass guitar when the President Baravia was walking through the portal was just so fucking sick. Then the angelic orchestra for Superman's parts were awesome. I didn't like it in the trailers, but in the film it was amazing. And of course, the punk rock in the film, I love too. I'm a big fan of punk rock, so. Having that in there is just appealing to me. Love how it feeds into the characters too. Like I mentioned earlier, that shot of Superman coming up from the dust was electric. Also, that shot of Superman floating up during the Ultraman fight is comic book panel gold. I could totally see that as a splash page in the issue of Superman. I do also like the beginning text. It begins with 3 centuries ago, metahumans were created, then 30 years ago, a boy was sent to Earth, and it starts going down further to 3 years, to 3 months, to 3 days, 3 minutes. It was just a cool opening to me. The first time Superman is defeated was a good way to start. It makes us wonder what defeated Superman. It was very much like a comic. They do that sort of thing all the time. Overall, I had a great time with the film, but I have a good amount of problems with it that hold it back. It very much felt like a Superman comic, and I love that about it. Like having Metamorpho as an octopus briefly is hilarious. I do have a high motivation to watch it again. I hope it does well, and we get so many more tales of punk rock Superman. I want to see the Superman fight the last member of his race, an alien scientist, a bounty hunter, a Bizarro, I want to see him marry, save the multiverse, die and return, raise a son, and grow old. I want to see the Superman do it all, and I'll always be there to see him. I dressed up for watching the film, and damn it, I'd do it again. I could see him doing so much, and I can't wait to see the adventures of this Superman in the future. My personal most wanted character to see as an antagonist is Cyborg Superman. Hank Henshaw is just one of those villains that just oozes badassery. In summary, I'd give this film a 7.5 out of 10. I want to give it an 8, but the poor writing in parts, I can't go any higher. But it's the highest 7.5 I'll ever give. It's a very good Superman movie. Not great, but good. And that's enough for now. Thanks for watching.
Listen to the music.